let's watch Ashikai's Star Rail lore video on the High Cloud Quintet. I was very curious about this, and I'm excited to see what she has to say because I don't think I was paying enough attention. I also don't have Blade, so I haven't read everything about him. So yeah, let's find out. Danheng already died at least once, but he died, but he didn't die in here, right? He didn't die in the game, right? There is reincarnation though, so that's nice, for this game. But I don't think we have. Actually, I'll hold my breath on that for Genshin. Okay, child gonna die in Fontaine. He better freaking not. Hoyoverse loves to pull at our heartstrings. They do. Laura, this was so fascinating. Well, the humanity, the second Hersher of reason. Yes.
Enemies are either dead or captured, and my past friends are scattered to the wind. Now that I think about it, I am indeed an old man.
Of 5 people, 3 must pay a price. These words are carved into my every wound.
If he were to forget everything, it would make things a lot easier for me.
And by the
This sounds just like a trailer.
when will our retribution come?
Walt has access to his Hersher powers as well as his divine key. Nice. Danheng had the hot dream about Blade. What do you mean hot dream?
So how many of you are sitting around here wondering why all these people are just fighting each other? I'm guessing it's probably most of you. And you know what? Fair enough. Unless you're talking to every NPC and reading all of the supplemental in-game
Yes, I
quests,
really don't have time to talk to every
familiar
NPC.
with the group known as the High Cloud Quintet, an almost legendary group of 5 friends, 4 of whom we've met and one, it's complicated. But these friends fought alongside each other against
Hang on. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, that's true. We've only met 4.
the denizens of abundance for the Xianzhou Alliance hundreds of years ago. And of the original 5, only Jing Yuan remains aboard the Luo Fu in any sort of public fashion. So obviously something went horribly, horribly wrong at some point with these guys, but before
Yeah.
we can even begin to theorize about what sort of crazy stuff led to all of this, we need to get a little backstory on each of the 5 High Cloud Quintet members. Now, if that sounds boring to you, trust me, it's anything but boring. If you thought the fate of Tingyun was a nice twist in the latest story chapter, you are not prepared for the level of twisty-turny, swervy-worvy, what the freakery I'm about to present here. So grab yourself a snack and a seat because the introductions will begin momentarily.
Walt and Lore
Now,
has
like
been
I
off
said
twice.
earlier,
Yes.
Jing Yuan is the only one of the High Cloud
He won in the
Quintet still
breakup.
visible to the public eye. The rest are either dead, Mara-struck, exiled, or have been forced through reincarnation as a punishment for a crime. Sometimes it's multiple of these. It gets a little bit messy, and Jing Yuan just so happens to be the least messy of the quintet. Jing Yuan came from a family that
Yanqing, what did you get yourself into? Now I suddenly feel really bad for his boy toy. He has no idea. He became a target.
traditionally served the Realm Keeping Commission, but he broke from his familial norms to join the Cloud Knights when he became of age. He was still pretty young when he saved his fellow knights from being brain-jacked by a bunch of puppeteer jellyfish aliens, and that feat landed him in an important position within the knights and also caught the eye of the sword champion of the Luo Fu, and her name was Jing Liu. Jing Liu
Yeah, he
was
fought
not
all of
from
these
the
people.
Luo Fu initially. She was instead one of the only known survivors of the Xianzhou ship, the Songxiang, which was devoured by the activated planet known as Rahu in the year 6300. Now,
Okay.
Rahu appears to be a planet capable of devouring entire worlds, and based on this text from the overview of the Xianzhou's Materia Medica, it seems to be a living planet.
Okay, let me see what it says about it being a living planet. In the end, Yeyuan left his position and drove a starskip to roam the stellar seas in search of an answer. On the ancient planet of Rahu, he found an emanator of the plague's author, a living entity called Shuhu. Yeyan witnessed how Shuhu granted life back to Rahu, which had long ago become a dead planet. Oh. Oh. And caused the planet to throb like an embryo in the mother's womb. Yeah, that description. He followed to and recorded their healing miracles and various teachings, ultimately composing the scripture. Okay.
Planet with living things on it, but a planet that is itself alive. So that's fun. Anyway, it
I've
should
watched
be
the
around
Marvel
this time
Cinematic
that
Universe.
Blade
I'm used to
arrived on
that.
one of the Xianzhou ships via a merchant ship. But at the time, he would have been using the name Yingxing, which doesn't appear to be his real name either, since he was a short-life species unrelated to the Xianzhou. We don't really know what his original name was, so I'm just going to call him Blade so everything is less confusing. Blade arrived in the Xianzhou with the intent to study weaponry, which means,
Okay.
believe it or not, Blade actually makes blades, or at least he used to. He was a craftsman, and in fact, he made all of the weapons for the High Cloud Quintet. Now, given that he wasn't a Xianzhou native, he would not have been naturally immortal, and it is illegal to make people immortal according to the Xianzhou law. I've been put a pin in
Yes.
that one because that will become important later.
Was that his crime? Was that Dunfeng's crime? Okay, I guess I'll find out. But oh my gosh, one of his attacks is called Shuhu's Gift. Oh, okay. That makes sense.
So I'm assuming that Blade must have been quite young at this point when he arrived, because Jing Yuan, at the very least, is described as a kid when Blade gave him his Devastator glaive. The two were known to bicker with each other, which just makes me think of two teens like Yenqing's age picking on each other, and it's just kind of funny. Also, the High Cloud Quintet sort of
Okay, so they
of,
bickered.
exploits,
Cute.
so to speak, was only about 100 years. As he got older, Blade became especially close to the High Elder of the Vidyadhara, Dan Feng, which is the previous incarnation of Dan Heng. We can infer all
Okay.
of this from how their relationship is described in the Passerby of Wandering Cloud's relic set, which is a set that is told from the perspective of Blade. Now, according to
Yeah, I
this
could
set,
tell
the two
from the
of them
clothes.
often
I haven't read it.
sparred together, drank together, wore a matching set of custom bracers that Don Feng crafted for them, and the relic set even describes them as being bosom friends.
Oh, we know what that means. We know what you are. we okay. I see now. I thought Jingyan and Nanfeng was a possible ship, but this one, it doesn't get any more real than this.
So, yeah, I mean, they are undeniably close. There's also a slightly odd instance where the relic set says that the two exchanged wine cups under the moon, and I know that to Western audiences this doesn't really sound like much of an important thing, but the original
We
Chinese
know.
text uses some really obscure, archaic characters which could be read as engagement, which does not necessarily imply a romantic thing, but it does heavily imply a deep, almost familial bond between.
Ashikai, you don't have to pretend. We know. I see. They were married. Oh my god.
The two, regardless.
The plot thickens.
Now, later in the relic set, after Blade loses his mind to the Mara and his memories get a little hazy, he finds himself holding a jade flask that he made, that he also meant to give to Don Feng as a gift, only to realize that his friend is no longer around. Some of you probably
dear.
think I'm getting sidetracked here, but I promise I am not. The relationship between Dan Feng and Blade is extremely important, and it's second only to the relationship between Jing Liu and the final member of the High Cloud Quintet, who we know only as the Foxian. I really hope you guys are sitting down for this, because this is where this gift gets really,
Oh, dear.
really weird.
Okay,
The Foxian
this is a
member of
character
the
I don't
Quintet
even
was
know.
a very gifted Starskiff pilot, well-traveled and perhaps a bit reckless. If Blade's character story is anything to go by, anyway.
Wait a minute. A Starskiff pilot. Yeah, I can see why she's using. I can see why. I am recording this for VOD, yes. I can see why she's using her as the figure, right? Because it sounds a lot like this character already, right?
She could shoot multiple arrows at a time with a recurve bow he made her while piloting her Starskiff.
Wait.
Honestly, she sounds quite a bit like Yukong, but she's definitely not Yukong. Otherwise, she'd be named as such in all the sources, since Yukong is pretty famous. But
Yeah, okay. Yeah, like she sounds a lot like her. But also, like, it's kind of funny because now there's gonna be reincarnation allegations, right? Kind of like the what is it called? The oh my god, I can't remember her name. Guizhong, the Guizhong Ningguang
I
allegations.
digress. Now, I really need to go out on a very, very bizarre limb here, and I promise that this will all make sense if you just stick with me for a few minutes, okay?
I like that
Because
she's
I
using
think I
Luca
know
as her
who the
avatar because of the
Foxian
red hair.
actually is, and yes,
Oh.
we've met them, and yes, they're playable. It's Bailu. Wait, wait, don't click off the video
Wait.
just yet. I know that
Wait.
Bailu is a Videodora, so it makes zero sense if she's the Foxian of the High Cloud Quintet, but I promised you this was gonna get weird, so just stick with me.
Okay,
Hear
okay,
me
let's
out.
see.
I
Hi,
promise it'll
Day.
make sense.
Hi,
It'll get
Dayla, what's
weird,
up?
but it'll make sense, okay? We'll get through this together. Okay, so Bailu is the next High Elder of the Luafu Videodora, and
We're watching just for context. We're watching Ashikai's video on the High Cloud Quintet because I need to catch up on their lore. It sounds like a hot mess of BL. I love it. And there's a crazy theory here that Bailu is the Foxian member. I don't know. So we're gonna see how she draws us to this conclusion. But she's very convincing. So I think she'll get us there. I believe she will get us there.
apparently, before her, every Luafu Videodora High Elder was one of Dan Heng's incarnations. But not this time because Dan Heng
Ooh la la,
was
yes.
exiled for the crimes of Dan Feng. So that's oddity
Yes.
number 1. Now, oddity number 2 is when Jing Yuan regularly visits Bailu every year, even though there's nothing wrong with him and they have no apparent connection outside of doctor and patient. Now, he always brings with him very specific treats and gifts, like he knows what she likes. And he just makes small talk, asking, how she is. If she's
I wonder
been
where
eating,
that
and
lore is.
He tells her all about his expeditions
Hi, Beck's
to
dad,
other
yes.
worlds that he's been on. And Bailu really, really likes those stories because she has a serious case of wanderlust, similar to a Foxian.
Oh, I don't have.
And that's
I
probably
didn't
why
know
she
that
was trying to escape
about the
the
relationship.
confinement chamber. And this whole thing, when you read about it in Jing Yuan's character stories, is just so weird because it reads like he knows her, but she doesn't remember him.
Okay, let's read this and see. Because I have not read his character story. I don't even know what friendship level he's at. The general comes to see me about his health every year, complaining of symptoms such as tight chest and shortness of breath, and wanting me to give him a checkup. The movement of the general's chi is extremely vigorous, and there are no signs of affliction by strange diseases or being stricken with mora. It is my view he is simply bored and has slipped out to rove about when he's found some free time. If that were not the case, why show up every time with a box of sweetmeats, nuts, and candies and whatnot? How is my health? Have I had any dreams lately? How have I been eating? He's more like the doctor than I am. Oh, yeah, this does sound very suspicious. I do very much enjoy chatting with the general. He's not like those old so-and-sos, no grand airs. Likes to joke and tease, and he often tells me about the parts of the world he's been on expeditions to. All sorts of marvelous stuff. How I would love to leave doctoring behind and head off to the ends of the earth with a sword in hand. Oh, this is in Bailu's story, which I definitely do not have. But I see, yeah, this sounds very, very... Their relationship will definitely be a big reveal. Is Daddy doing better after Danny piercing him from behind? Oh my god.
And he even asks her about her dreams. Like those matter to him for some reason. And why should they? See, Videodora High Elders are the only Videodoras that are supposed to dream of their previous lives due to some special artifacts that are passed down from High Elder to High Elder. But Bailu has never once dreamed of her past lives.
Okay, this is interesting. She has not grown. This is not unusual. I'm more concerned about her having no dreams. All the past High Elders will re-experience the events of their dragon ancestors' lives in dreams. I see. Does that mean that Dan Heng's dream that we saw earlier, was that even him? Do you think that was him? Or do you think it was a dream of his of Dan Feng in the past? The plot thickens. Okay. The Office of Deep Sources is charged with transcribing, retelling, and annotating these dreams. Or is it only the past High Elders? Because he's not a High Elder anymore. I don't know. Anyway, these dreams tend to be fragmentary and difficult to understand. It is, after all, the only way our kind have of coming close to the permanence. Yet, Lady Bailu has experienced nothing of this sort.
And that in itself is extremely
Put him in rice.
unusual. So oddity number 3. But I need to amend that statement, actually, because she doesn't actually dream until you finish her companion mission and
I
she
haven't.
boards the Astral Express, because somehow doing so triggers a dream of another life for her.
Oh.
One where she was traveling the sky, going anywhere she wants to go, and she's so happy, but then she still wakes up crying. And
Oh, I
How
see.
coincidental would it be if we just happened to know the name of a Foxian traveler with a connection to the nameless that were aboard the Astral Express? Oh, hey, ding, ding, ding. Looks like we've got a winner here. This is Bai Hung, a Foxian traveler, and as far as I know, this is the only reference to her by name in the game as of version 1.2.
Oh, I see. So with the naming conventions as well, I can see how that makes sense. Um, the nameless will never stop exploring the unknown. They will explore the long abandoned tracks traversed by the now silent star rail. There are only two directions on a nameless's compass: the unknown city that spurs adventurous curiosity, and the place that will bury our bones. Sometimes they are the same. Oh, that's dark.
Now, coincidentally, the Chinese character used for Bai in both Bai Hung and Bai Lu are exactly the same. So, oddity number 5. So, assuming I'm not completely insane, how could Bai Hung, a Foxian, turn into Bai Lu, a Vidyadhara? And the answer to that is Dan Feng. He did it, or he's connected to it somehow. I don't know how he did it, but there's a few possibilities.
I love that she's just like,
The
I
most
just know he
straightforward
did
one is
it.
that he simply just has that kind of a power natively. It's suggested in a few places that he can perform feats of revival. I'm not really sure the extent of this or what it entails, but the only thing we can really confirm for certain is that he does have really powerful healing abilities. And if Bailu is any indication of the healing capabilities of a Vidyadhara High Elder, then he likely had the capability to revive the deceased, since, she has a revive mechanic in her kit. Irregardless of this hypothetical ability, though, the bodies of the Vidyadharas are used as ingredients in multiple experimental drugs used to alter lifespans. The first is the Draught of Draconic Surge created by the disciples of Sanctus Medicus. This drug uses Vidyadhara bone marrow to restore one's mind after it has been corrupted by Mara. And the more sinister instance of using Vidyadhara body parts comes from a rogue experiment. In
I
the
just heard
credit notes
Vidyadhara
of
body
Scholar
farts, and I'm
Believe,
like, that
he
doesn't seem
removed
right.
some of the fluid from one
I
of
think
the
I misheard
Vidyadhara
that.
eggs and injected it into himself. This completely reverted his aging process, all the way back to infancy. And then it seems to have forced him to dissolve into an embryonic fluid which couldn't exist outside of an egg, so let's just say he's not around anymore.
Oh my God.
Of his experiment.
Oh no.
So the Vidyadhara
It's
definitely have
it's
nothing,
Benjamin Button,
and
but
we know
the horror
Dan Feng's
version.
crimes were sedition, since he incited a rebellion, and stealing immortality for someone other than himself. So he has to be responsible for reviving someone or making someone immortal and therefore preventing their death. Now, I personally think he did it for Bai Hung, and by giving her some of his flesh, I guess, he would have turned her into Bailu by putting her through a forced reincarnation.
That's so interesting.
Am I completely insane? Who knows? I'll let you decide.
I think we're
Either
gonna
way,
find
we're
out
gonna
if
move
it
on
is
with the
true, but
assumption that
that
I am
is
right about at least
a
half of this,
really
and
crazy
that we're
idea,
going
yeah.
to now use this information to talk about what really happened and answer the question at the start of this video: why are these friends fighting each other all of a sudden? While the exact details are
Yes.
neither confirmed nor implied with
This is what we're really here
there
for.
are a few things I'm pretty darn sure about, and it starts with the destruction of Jingliu's ship, the Sangxiang. Now, if you recall, this ship was destroyed by the world-devouring planet Rahu, but this planet was once home to an emanator of abundance known as Shuhu, who revived the planet and made it that way. While on the hunt for Phantalia, Jingyuan mentions that he witnessed something called the Shuhu Upheaval Period aboard the Luofu, implying that this event must have happened in the Vidyadhara Palace area on the Luofu. Now, we know that the Intelligentsia Guild joined the Second Abundance Wars in the year 5749 and defeated Shuhu aboard the Xianzhou Yutui after Shuhu attacked it. Based on this minimal information, I think it's incredibly likely that Shuhu was eventually sealed in the roots of the arbor aboard the Luofu and remained dormant there for hundreds of years. It's very likely that the High Cloud Quintet were involved in several battles here, actually, some of them involving Shuhu and some of them maybe not. Now, eventually, the Vidyadhara would have had to give up their palace to imprison the arbor itself completely,
Okay.
and Dan Feng would have likely led the operation. Now, given how much the Vidyadhara sacrificed for the Xianzhou, I think it's reasonable to assume that there may be some resentment among their number, perhaps enough to lead to a bit of a power struggle later down the line, which would explain the act of sedition that Dan Feng was accused of in light of all of this.
Mm-hmm.
However, I would like to propose the idea that Danfeng was more interested in trying to destroy Shuhu for good and recruited Blade to assist him. Because, they were close. This is kind of the point. When you need help with something really important, who do you ask? You probably ask your closest friend, right? So that's what Danfeng would do. He asked his closest friend Blade. I told you this was important. Anyway, I think that's what this
Okay.
memory here is supposed to be referencing. Now, I think Blade maybe owed Danfeng a favor, and Danfeng wanted him to research something related to Shuhu in return for that favor, so he parted the waters and gave him 2 hours to do it. But I also think something went very, very wrong here, and I think he ended up being blessed by Shuhu instead, hence his
Oh.
talent, Shuhu's gift. Now,
Oh,
Danfeng may have
no.
tried to heal him, since we know the Vidyadhara bone marrow can stabilize the effects of Mara.
This is so
and that
tragic.
might explain Blade's unique situation. In fact, we know there's something wrong with Bailu's, quote, dragon heart, and I find it curious that pre-Mara Blade had white hair, but post-Mara Blade has hair that is remarkably similar to Danfeng's in style and color. I do wonder if the process of Danfeng, maybe offering some of his flesh to Blade in order to save his life, might have been responsible for these physical similarities. But you're probably wondering where Bai Heng and Jing Liu fit into all of this, right? Well, I think Bai Heng caught wind of what these two boys were up to and followed them, only she was a bit more unlucky and didn't make it out alive. Unprepared, she
I did
probably
not do this
died,
story.
and
This is a
Danfeng
huge
may have
spoiler.
tried to also revive her
But
by
sure.
putting her body in an egg, meaning her situation may have been far more severe than Blade's. And I don't just say that lightly. You can actually check out this egg and read its memory of a time where a monstrous malformed dragon burst out of another egg, only to find itself stabbed in the head by a remorseful Jing Liu who softly whispered sorry to it as she did so.
Oh.
Like she was regretful, or like she knew who she was killing. That malformed dragon was probably Bai Heng undergoing a failed reincarnation. But the Vidyadhara preceptors probably thought that since Bai Heng had ingested the powers or flesh of the previous High Elder, that she could probably undergo a transformation under different conditions and gain some of his powers,
Oh.
thereby making her a new High Elder and freeing them of having to deal with Danfeng. Jing Liu probably knew all of this because there's another egg memory where she demands the Vidyadhara let her see how she's doing. And she sounds desperate, or traumatized, or maybe both. Because what hatches out of that egg isn't the Bai Heng she knew, but probably Bailu, a Vidyadhara with no memory of her past self.
Oh.
My theory here is that Jing Liu and Bai Heng had a very similar bond to that of Blade and Danfeng.
Oh,
So
no.
Bai Heng's death would have been particularly difficult for her to stomach. Knowing that 2 of her companions were at least partly responsible for Bai Heng's death, and that Jing Liu probably could have prevented the whole thing but didn't, is likely what triggered her Mara and sent her on a rampage, leaving only Jing Yuan capable of cleaning up the aftermath. Because you see, soon after all of this, Danfeng would be charged
This
with
made
sedition
this
and
made
breaking
you
the immortality
this made you
pact.
not like Jing
He would
Liu?
then be forced
It
to
makes me
reincarnate
feel
as
really sad for
punishment,
her.
and his next incarnation would then be exiled, hopping from ship to ship until he finally settled aboard the Astral Express. Blade was probably quietly smuggled off the Xianzhou, maybe by Jing Yuan, where he woke up on another planet entirely, confused, alone, and somehow unable to die. And maybe things would have just ended there as a tragic story of the fall of some Xianzhou heroes, but Jing Liu was not killed by Jing Yuan. Instead, she escaped with vengeance, likely on her mind.
Oh my gosh.
Because you see, I think she wants justice for what happened to Bai Heng. We know that first she tracked down Blade and dealt him killing blow after killing blow over and over and over again, but upon realizing that he just wouldn't die, she turned this torture into a type of training for him instead, partly brainwashing his weak, Mara-riddled mind in the process.
Oh.
You see, it was actually Jing Liu's creed.
I see now why you might.
That whole, of 5 people, 3 must pay the price. Blade is only repeating his training. Remember, it was Jing Liu who told him to bring that feeling of death to those 3 people she found responsible. And it's Jing Liu who essentially programs Blade into hunting down Dan Heng to carry out a revenge that is not completely his. Now, I say not
That's
completely
tragic.
because Blade is also likely resentful
For the BL.
at some level. He potentially blames Danfeng for his current pitiful state, and that blame could manifest into a grudge which the Mara then amplifies to the point of insanity. But regardless, it's Jing Liu who pushes him to that brink. Now, Dan Heng will pay the price for setting the stage for Bai Heng's death. Blade will pay the price for going along with it. And Jing Liu will pay the price for not stopping Bai Heng when she had the chance to do so. Now, there is one thing I haven't really touched upon yet, and that is the accusation of Dan Feng inciting a rebellion, or sedition, I guess. Now, on the surface, this doesn't appear to be related to the events I've detailed earlier, but if you dig a little bit deeper, the whole sedition thing might be a reference to the reason Dan Feng actually wanted to defeat Shu Hu in the first place, at least if the rest of my theory is correct. This undestroyed letter is a correspondence that takes place after Bailu has hatched and Dan Feng has been imprisoned.
Okay. Looking at Dan Heng, never mind, I'll find someone like you. Looks down to, yes. I have received the samples that were sent. However, after transplanting and cultivating them, all the samples turned to powder. It's likely they were constantly constrained by the waters of the ancient sea, causing them to lose their vitality. After all, both the samples and the ancient waters are mystical celestial traces and are elusive to comprehension. However, I have already devised a plan to solve this mystery. I shall search the elixir research terrace for ancient prescriptions and techniques, or seek the help of skilled individuals. To this end, I have met with the messenger. She has agreed to provide me with what I desire. Once the seed is found, she will send someone to deliver it to the Shanzhou. I am not sure how she plans to accomplish this. As for the girl, she has learned quite well under the supervision of my predecessor, but she lacks sufficient experience and tends to be overly rebellious. The servant you sent must watch her every move. There is no need to worry, as she is not likely to break free from our control. There is no need to send new samples after receiving this reply. Back then, we unintentionally created the miracle of the bloom-born Zion, but there is a limit to mere luck. Such a miracle is unlikely to occur again. What we are trying to achieve is difficult. It could change the fate of countless people and even lead us to disaster. However, if we succeed, we will no longer be trapped.
One correspondent mentions researching something very risky that could change the fate of countless people, but if it's successful, it could free them from a predicament spanning millennia. Now, I'm not sure if the Vidyadhara are the them in this letter or if it's the Xianzhou people in general, but this research involves cuttings from the arbor and the creation of the bloom-born scion. And I don't know what those are, but it sounds like they might be people born from arbor blossoms. This might mean that they are trying to research a cure for the Mara, and it could also mean that there's some type of exploitation going on in regards to Vidyadhara land, since that's where the samples have been coming from. And then we have a page from the Alchemy Commission's official gazette where it's mentioned that Dan Feng stood up for Vidyadhara affairs, which to me implies that their race as a whole was either being exploited or mistreated, and that it was likely going unaddressed. Add to this the fact that there was political unrest
I believe in
between
him.
Vidyadhara Preceptor Council and the High Elder Dan Feng, to the point where some of them have even voiced the desire to usurp his authority. And, you know, there are just a multitude of factors that could have led Dan Feng to at least incite a protest, of all things. But I think it's very possible that Dan Feng actually wanted to reclaim the Vidyadhara Palace and perhaps made a proposal to defeat Shu Hu so that they could move back into their homeland. This proposal would have been extremely risky and very dangerous, so no doubt it was rejected. But if Dan Feng went through with it anyway, or tried to, and it went very, very wrong, I could see how that could be construed as an act of sedition. But hey, what do I know? I mean, we have such vague information to work with as it is. Any theory is valid at this point. We're just gonna have to
Yeah,
wait and
seems
see.
so.
I have had one heck of a time trying to piece together all these little bits of information, so I hope at the very least you have found all of this entertaining. However, I will leave you with one more fun little observation while the credits roll. Now, if you watched my last video on the Mara Struck, you know that the Eon Lan was a Xianzhou native that was willingly possessed by a fire alien known as a Heliobi before they ascended into an Eon. Now, it turns out Heliobi have two very distinct features: their propensity to possess the bodies of others, and taking the physical form of a large teal or bluish-green flame. That should sound pretty familiar, because that's literally what Fantalia is. She's a big teal flame that possesses the bodies of others, which means she's likely a Heliobi. Isn't that neat? I kind of wanted to share. I don't think anyone really caught the idea that she's like a fire alien. Like, that is actually what she is. She's
That's
like
pretty
the
cool.
she's like the Promare balls of fire. Like, that's what she is. It's kind of cool. Anyway, I'm going to wrap things up here, so a big thanks to my channel members for being awesome and their dedicated support to this channel and for everything that I try to do with it. And a big thank you, little viewer, for watching. Take care, stay awesome, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.
Yeah, okay. That was a lot. She was right. That was a lot of information to take in. I don't know. I don't know how to feel about anyone. Jingyeon seems quite an I feel bad for Yanting. Because I feel like Jingyeon seems like he was a bit outside of that drama, thus he's not one of the ones that's going to be. But he seems to be having to manage the mess afterwards, if that's the case. But then I'm like, oh no, Yanting is dragged into this into this really, really awful, like toxic friend group. Man. Okay.